Alright, what's going on? It could only be one man. Yes, indeed you are correct. The Commerce God, Hachiro 20. Back at you again for another video. And what do we have today? Another one of those videos that I've made in the past, talking about, my setups and, what I'm been using lately and how I intend to use it. So I'll give you a full look at some of my builds, mostly anything that I've had over the last few days and things like that, some of the staple builds, and basically I'll just be kind of giving you the whole rundown and the psychology about how I'm going to be using it, where I intend to use it, all that good stuff. So let's get this started. Okay, the first build on display is basically just my Ash build. You got your Wrath of Red deity, which is the Serum Prime. We have the Secure Dual Sestra, and we have the Skiajagi. Now this build is basically mostly meant for small engagements, so basically 1v1s, lobbies of no more than 4 people or so. And it gets the job done on a lot of stages that have doors and a lot of good places for me to hide and that kind of thing. So stages like Lure Ruins, Core, Infested Frigate might be one of the other stages I'll choose this build for. So you can kind of expect, on those particular stages I'm gonna bring this build. I like to use this build a lot. Mainly the Cernos, to punch through doors and kind of check doors, check pathways before I go through them, get good punch through kills at sometimes as well, and of course the Secure Dual Sestra on my finishing weapon in this build. I like the pressure a little bit with the Nakana here, and that's pretty much what you can expect from this build. A lot of close range engagement for the most part, and hanging back with the Cernos to kind of check areas and entry points, that kind of thing. So that's kind of the rundown with that build. Now, Excal cycling is basically as it sounds. It's a Excal slot that I kind of use to test various weapon setups with Excal. Formerly, this setup had the Javlock and then the Vectis Prime as the primaries, but today we have the Vorpality Event Erasure, which is the Archoplasma, and we're going to be trying out the Akbolto Prime along with the Vorpal Origin Slash, which is the Tombo. Now with this build, it's pretty much not known what I'm going to be doing with it. I just made this build very recently, haven't had any data tests with it yet, so we're going to be out there in various battle situations to see where this is going to be effective at. So this is another experimental build. Again, this slot is pretty much intended for that purpose. So that's basically where we're at here. This is a build that I'm going to pull out in every combat situation until I figure out exactly where it belongs. I'm going to mostly bet this being on a nice smaller map such as Outpost and that kind of thing. But yeah, Core also as well, that probably could work, but basically I'm looking to have this be a medium to far range build. I'm going to use the Akbolto Prime at some range to be a ranged weapon and try to get in close with the Archoplasma to try to finish things up along with the Tombo. So that's kind of the rundown on that build. We'll go now to the 1v1 build. This is the second 1v1 build that I have. The first one is just listed a little bit below these, but we have Frost Prime here with the Boar Prime and the Secure Dual Sestra, and we have a Zenny Star. Now the Zenny Star is another temporary placement. As you can see, the build is mainly built to accommodate a 1v1 atmosphere. It's kind of one of those builds that I really only will pull out for that purpose, or unless I'm like kind of messing around with my clan, like those kind of situations. Kind of more of a casual build. Now the Zenny Star is a placement that I put in here just recently. Usually I would run this with the Sendo Prime. Now that's been my favorite melee to use with Frost for quite some time, and I'm trying to experiment and expand out with more different great swords because I just feel like, you know, Frost is definitely one of those frames to use a great sword with, and that's kind of where my head is at with this. You know, it doesn't really matter which map I pull this out on. Uh, Freight Line, you know, Core, Lure Ruins, Forgotten Halls, any 1v1 setting, I'm gonna try to pull this bit out and see if it's gonna do much for me. Definitely more of a setup that's kind of more defensive. I use Frost Globes a lot with this build, Ice Wave, that type of thing. Just anything I can to be offensive and defensive at the same time. So more of a balanced build in that respect. Let's go ahead and move on to the countering slot, which is the Rhino Prime here. This is another temporary setup, and again another one like Excal cycling that is subject to change. But for now, we're using Rhino Prime along with the Turbulent Chaos Rifle, which is the Latron Wraith, the Brack, which is again another placeholder, and the Ninkandi. Now, this whole build is pretty much set up to work in any situation. Mostly a lot of straight hallway areas such as Lure Ruins and Core. Forgotten Halls also is another straight hallway kind of stage. Basically, that's what we're looking for when we have this build. A lot of areas where we have straight line rates of fire, and then Ninkandi to kind of lock down anybody who dares to get close. This is again a build that I'll kind of pull out in any situation, and you know, I kind of just enjoy this build as a little bit more of a fun build. Nothing really try hard about it, you know. And I like the Turbulent Chaos Rifle, aka the Latron Wraith, over other variants because I like the challenge of, like, you know, the recoil and the way it handles. So this is basically a build that kind of accommodates to me just trying to have fun while also, you know, challenging myself a little bit. And that's kind of the mentality of this build here. Wanderer Excal is basically one of the builds. You may recognize the color palette from one of my recently uploaded music videos, which is called Wandering the System. And this is the color palette that I used along with the rest of it. So this is basically the build that represents me in that video. The Wanderer Excal featuring Divine Wrath, which is the Ogress. Kama's God Fierce Barrage, which is my ever so trusted over the years Axamati, and the Blaze of the Kama's God, which needs no introduction. This build is pretty much for everybody. It's basically my calling card. Everybody knows who this is. When you see a Ogress and some dual Kamas, you know who's in the building. So basically, I don't really need to go too much in depth with this. I'll use this on pretty much anybody. It's the Kama's God, bitch. You better understand it. Pretty much simple. Alright, so this is basically the first intended 1v1 build. One that I've discussed with many people over the Warframe Conclave Discord. This is the Mesa Prime setup with Boltor Prime, Euphona Prime, and the Paracesis. Like I said, this is pretty much a build that I will use in a 1v1 situation, and depending on which stage that I get on, I'm going to definitely pick either this or the Frost build. But for most situations, I will pick this one. I might change the Boltor at some period of time, but I really like it to use with Ballistic Battery, and finish off with a Ballistic Battery charged Euphona Prime. Now, that's basically all I really have to say about this build. It really doesn't have too much special going on with it. I haven't really figured out exactly the way I want to use it yet. So, you know, it's kind of another placeholder build. For now, you know, we're just kind of, you know, experimenting with this particular slot. Used to have a Nova build with several different placeholders on that one as well, but, you know, we're not going to really get too much into that. Now, here's a staple build for me, once again, just like the Ogress and Dual Kama setup you see there with the Excal. Chroma Prime with the Vorpal Eradication Bomb, which is the Phantasma. And we again have the Secure Dual Sestra, another trusted dual pistol that I like to use, along with the Corrupted Aegis, which is a callback to my old screen name, which was Corrupt Igus, and is indeed the Sylvan Igus Prime. Another build that I will pull out in a lot of situations in high impact lobbies, so you know what I'm saying, I'll go in there with a 8-person lobby, you know, or any kind of 4 or more person lobby in it. Freight line is one stage you will definitely see me pull this build out on, along with Outpost. Pretty much a multifaceted build. It usually gets the job done in almost any situation. I can just kind of depend on it. The Phantasma always has had my back since I started using it back in 2019. But yeah, that's basically the mentality of this. Short and sweet. It's good for everybody, you know. So, you know, there's that. Here's another staple setup for the most part. The only difference really being that I don't have the Nakana Prime in this anymore. And then I used to also use the Axamati here, but these have been replaced with the Axtiletto Prime. So this is the Serum Prime with the Cernos Prime. As you may know, I've been using the Serum Cernos setup for quite some time. There's really not been anybody else who's used Serum as frequently as I have on the PlayStation 4 platform. For the wildest, I've been pretty much the only name in Serum until Electric Procs. But, you know, we now have the Axamati, the Axtiletto, as I said earlier, and the Savage Whiff of Malice, which is the Skoliak. This is pretty much a multifaceted engagement build, such as the Chroma Prime build is. What we have here is the Savage Whiff of Malice, the Skoliak, which is good for using in very quick engagements. This is pretty much a get in, get out type of build, you know what I'm saying? Very crafty, very high mobility. This Serum has been built for regeneration and high mobility in the sense that I really want to be very fast acting with this build. So I'll pretty much pull this out 1v1, small lobbies, large lobbies, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's another trademark build such as the Chroma and the Excal. Those 3 builds there are pretty much ones that I'm going to depend on all the time. So that's pretty much the mentality against that. You know, just want to give you some ideas. Now here is a more recent build once again that I've been using in the Conclave over the last week or so. It is the Volt Prime with the Vorpalized Stinger Rifle, which is the Prisma Gorgon. Again featuring the Secura Dual Sestra and the Desecrator Claw of Heathen, which is the cost assist. Now, this build has been doing a lot of great things for me. I've experienced a lot of success with it. It's pretty much a large lobby build only. I've never really liked using this in a 1v1 or small lobby situation. It gets the most hype, you know, it's a very much a hype build that I like to use, you know what I'm saying? Really love the Prisma Gorgon. It's probably the most trusted primary automatic that I've ever ran. Yeah, that's pretty much the mentality on it. I'll pull it out on any stage pretty much. There's a lot of different situations in which this build can be very useful. Electric Shield being one application that I like to do for baiting melee and other interesting close range engagements. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm, you know, using this build for. It's definitely one that is gonna stay with me for quite some time, I feel, and it's got a lot of trust from me, being a recent build. So that's basically the rundown of all of my Conclave builds that I use these days. You guys, if you like some of the builds that I've used and maybe you want to run some 1v1s, you know where to find me. I'm not hard to find at all. You know, just type in Hachiro 20 in your shits. Go ahead and hit me up. You want to go do some training sessions, work on your aim, hang out with your boys in the Outcast Moon, hit me up. You know what I'm saying? We're out here. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. A little in-depth look at my personality and psychology in Conclave and what builds that I like to use. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate that. And leave a like, comment, do whatever you guys would like to do to support my channel. And I'll see you guys next time. This is the Comments God, and I'm up out of the building.